Hey guys, Jake from Evolving Daily. Thanks for watching. This is a review of Fighting Pistol, my first ever real firearms, defensive firearms training I've ever taken. And I waited about a month and a half because I wanted to make sure that things that I learned there and things that I'd realized that I started to want to do more often in the real world, that I kept doing them and that they really sank in. If you're just going to watch 2 minutes of this video, because it'll probably be a fairly long one, if you're just going to watch the first 2 minutes, the quick overview of the class is go take it. You can't learn everything from watching YouTube videos, obviously. It's worth the money. You'll want to take it again. I'm going to go again here in hopefully a month or so. And it's not just learning how to shoot a gun. It's the mentality of the class and the mindset stuff that you'll learn that really changes things for you. You will learn to shoot better. I guarantee that. But the mindset stuff is worth going to the class alone. It's worth paying for the class and getting there just for the lectures between day 1 and 2. And it's worth the class just to get the handout. The little handout they give you, I carry with me every day. I've read it probably 100 times. So now, the long extended version of the review. The video might be a little choppy. There's a lot of stuff I want to go over, but I don't want the video to be 45 minutes. So before I left for the class, I wrote down the things I thought I was going to learn, the things I expected from the class, and what I thought I would get out of it. I thought I would learn to shoot a little better. I've always felt a little weird with my grip. My follow-up shots, I thought I would speed those up a little bit and make them a little bit more accurate. I've shot quite a bit. I could always keep a group, a couple fists, and be fairly fast with it, I thought. Because I've watched James's videos, I've watched every instructional video he's put out of how to shoot or how to do this, how to do that. I've watched them all hundreds of times. But going into the class, I thought I would learn some. I was kind of underestimating the class and overestimating myself. So I got into Camden the evening before, went to Nathan Bedford. It's like $5-10 to stay there. The bugs were crazy at Bedford in August, beginning of August. So much that you couldn't sit outside and enjoy a fire. Camped in the back of my car, blew up an air mattress and laid it out in the back of the car. Then got to tactical response the first morning. We got there and they took roll, seen who all was there. Our class was pretty big, 30, 35-ish, I think, people. I think that's pretty big for their classes usually. The instructors were Gary Marr, Trimus was the lead, then Calvin, Tim, and Jay. And first morning, right out of the gate, everybody introduced themselves. And first and foremost was the 4 firearm safety rules, and went over, while you're at the range or even just at class, who the medical professionals are of the class and of the instructors. Of course, all of them can handle their own when it comes to a medical emergency. Went over who all the medical people were, where the hospital was in town, where all the med bags were, and what to do in case there was an emergency. And that's something that's big. I mean, a lot of people don't ever give another thought to to what happens after someone gets hurt or shot or sick or anything like that. And part of day one, you know, how to hold a gun, how to shoot, how to align your sights, the absolute basics. Because someone who doesn't own a firearm or has never shot a firearm could legitimately take this class. I mean, they break it down to the absolute basics starting out on day one. And one really big thing that I like about tactical response, with the instruction, they're not saying, you know, don't hold it like this, don't hold it like this, hold it like this. They don't give you those extra options. When they come over and correct your grip and someone says, well, what was I doing before? They don't go over how you were messing it up before. They say, hold it like this, hold it like this. And that, when you only have one option to choose from, when you've only been shown one way to do it, you don't go over all those options in your head. You do it that way every time. Did a little bit of book work the morning of day one. You're not in class that long the morning of day one. They make sure that everybody knows where they're going to find the range. Within 20 minutes of being at the range on day one, I was a better shooter. Definitely within 20 minutes. My groups were tighter, and I was a lot faster on follow-up shots. Before, you know, I could keep a vital size group at 10 yards or whatever, well, probably 7 yards, what I usually trained at before, or practiced at before. And I could keep a decent pace. But within 20 minutes, I was keeping a 3-inch group, you know, not, you know, hit them high center mass, hit them in the heart, and keeping it pretty fast. In day one, they really instill that you need to be moving all the time. If it's during your draw stroke, during a reload, during whatever, you need to be moving. Because if you're not moving, you're probably getting shot. They go over trigger reset, which is a big thing. I was, you know, trying to practice it before, and I was okay with it. This made me a whole lot better. Proper grip, that's one thing that I always felt that I was a little bit off on, and Tim really, I can keep my sights on a target, like exactly where I want to hit, and squeeze them off just about as fast as I want to now. And before, it was, you know, bring my recoil back down a little bit. I would recoil just outside of the target before. Now, my front sight is right there, and I can squeeze the trigger off about as fast as I want. Focusing on the front sight, which is, you know, key to especially defensive shooting, is being 100% on the front sight. And before, I had focused on the front sight with my eyes, you know, it needs to be clear, everything else can be foggy. But I'd never thought about mentally focusing on the front sight. You know, there's nothing else going on except for that front sight and me making a good trigger press, which is another thing that was covered in day one, how to properly press the trigger. Because before, with my trigger press, I thought that I was making good trigger press. I've shot long range bolt guns fairly adequately and shot my pistol fairly well, but was always off to the left just a little bit. I thought, well, maybe my sights are just a little off. Nothing extreme, because I wasn't pushing over on the trigger. But the big thing with my trigger pull, I was pulling smooth into the rear, but as soon as it would click, I was going to my reset. I didn't pull all the way to the rear and finish it like I was finishing all the way through the gun, which is something they went over, and that that brought my group over. You know, I was off maybe an inch to the left before at 7-ish, whatever yards. Now it's dead center. And that was something that I really took away from day one. There was a bunch of stuff I took away from it, but that was one of the bigger things that had been irritating me for a long time, because, you know, I've, in the earlier days, printed off the targets that said, you know, you're snapping the trigger, or you're jerking the trigger, or you're pushing on the trigger, or whatever the bullshit mumbo jumbo is. And I'd really tried to work on those things. I'd got it to where I was an inch left, and I was always trying to, you know, the flat part of my finger and this and that and the other. But in 20 minutes, they fixed that. Went over a proper draw stroke, a proper safe draw stroke. And again, you weren't taught wrong ways to do it. You were taught the right way to do it every time. When you were corrected, they didn't say, well, you were doing this, let's try doing this. It was always, do it this way. And it was taught in steps, which, if you're a new shooter or you've never really worked on your draw stroke with a professional, learning it in steps helps. It's not, do it like this. It was, you know, step 1, clear your garment and get a good hold on the pistol. Step 2, do this. It was broken down to where anybody could learn it. Also in day 1, went over reloads, how to properly reload, which I thought I had a pretty good handle on, but there were some things I was missing. Went over clearing malfunction, or types of malfunctions and how to clear them. Went over shooting positions, and I'd never really given shooting positions that much thought, you know, standing, sitting, kneeling, prone, whatever. But how to make safe transitions to each, and how to properly shoot from each position, which I dabbled with. You know, it's not much fun to, especially when you're a big fat guy that back is always hurting. It's not much fun to go out and lay down on your back and shoot from prone, and it's not really safe unless you've had competent hands-on training. Watching videos on YouTube is not going to do it. Turns, you know, commotions going on behind you, you skin out and turn, and how to do it safely, and how to do it efficiently and quickly. And shooting on the move. There's a whole lot more to shooting on the move, but it's a lot more simple than a lot of people make it out to be. You know, you've got to move this foot this many inches and then drag this. A lot of people put a lot of emphasis on some really silly things, and they really simplify it and make it a lot more efficient and a lot more normal. You don't look like a robot trying to shoot like, because you're not going to do that in a real situation. And you're not going to do it really, so you're going to be trying to move as fast as you can, and they teach you how to do that safely and efficiently and still keep a really good group. While backpedaling about as quick as I could while still being safe, I kept a better group at 15 yards. 15 yards, you know, double what a lot of people practice at, about that 7-yard range for some reason. At 15 yards backpedaling about as fast as I can, kept a better group than I did before the class standing still at 7 yards. And still putting shots out pretty quick, enough that somebody's not going to be coming towards you anymore. One thing that you'll really get out of this class is your mind is getting in the way of you being a better shooter. A lot better shooter. So the evening of day 1, everybody came together and we talked about this and that and what we'd do day 2. And the instructor said, hey, you know, we're going to grill out at the house. Anybody that wants to come out, come out. Bring whatever kind of meat you want, and we'll have the side dishes, unless you wanted hot dogs, and they supplied those. You know, 20 of us or whatever went to Gary, Tim, Jay, and Calvin's house, their own house. They grilled everything for us, sat around and talked, and if you would take 20 gun people and set them down in a room, I would absolutely hate 15 of them. You know, the guys that, you've got to have a 45 or you've got to whatever this, they're trying to shove, you know, their beliefs down your throat and just go off anecdotal bullshit. Everybody there I could go on vacation with. Everybody's level-headed, like-minded, but has their own opinions about this or that. But it was, you know, a few hours of sitting around eating and having some adult beverages with people that actually research these things and know what they're talking about when they talk about guns, and they're not going off stupid stuff they heard on the internet. And it was really a good time. And they brought us to their house and cooked for us, and it was a really good time. And it just shows you how much of a family environment it is in Camden. And while we were there, John Willis texted somebody there and said, "Hey, SOE's having a bonfire. Anybody that was in the class can come over and have a good time." Went over there for a little bit because I still had day one homework to do. Went over there for a little bit, and then that night I got a hotel room at the Best Western, which when I got there they said, asked if I was in town on business or something, and kind of reluctantly told them I was in town for a class. And because some places aren't real keen on you maybe having a gun or something like that. And they said, "Oh, you in for tactical response?" Yeah. And they couldn't have been more accommodating. They weren't scared by a gun or weren't upset that I was going to have guns in the room. Matter of fact, the lady just said, "Try not to spill any gun cleaner in the room because that stuff stinks," or something like that. So their Best Western gets a thumbs up in Camden, because I couldn't do Nathan Bedford again with all the bugs and stuff. So stayed there. Wasn't looking forward to my homework. I'm not a big reader, but the homework was dry fire training or dry fire practice, and like 40 pages worth of reading. So I was kind of bummed about that. But I sat down and read them and wish there would have been more prescribed reading, because there were case studies and actual things that have happened and some mindset stuff from James. And so day two, we met back up at the classroom in the morning, and the first half-ish of the day was classroom. Lectures about all kinds of stuff, legal and statistics of shootings and thises and that's, and the day two lecture is worth driving to Camden and paying the money. I had a little bit over 9-hour drive, and it was worth every bit of it just for the day two lecture. The whole class is worth going for, but I mean, that day two lecture is worth your time and money to get down there. And along with statistics of, a headshot doesn't always stop a fight, and 5 or 10 in the chest doesn't always stop a fight. Whatever it takes to end the fight is whatever it takes. If you're carrying around some little pocket rocket with 6 rounds in it that are underpowered, yeah, it's better than nothing, but I wouldn't like to carry that around. And at times before, long ago, I did. And then there was a lot of legal stuff talked about, which to a lot of guys sound boring, but it was opened up a lot of people's eyes in class, including mine, about some things that you've heard before that aren't really the facts, and what you should do if you happen to get in a gunfight, as soon as that gun quits being loud, what you should do, what's going to happen, what things you need to have set in place ahead of time to make that as livable as possible. And a really nice thing about our class was Dana McClendon, Hot Crazy Matrix guy, was in the class, and he's an actual lawyer, defense attorney who actually does this like daily, talking about what you should do, what you shouldn't do, what's bullshit, what's internet nonsense, and how you should carry yourself as soon as that thing quits being loud. So then we broke for lunch and met up back out at the range. Big things covered on day 2 at the range. Constant movement again, because that's crazy important. Using cover and the difference between cover and concealment, and how to properly use cover. A lot of people think you get up behind a wall and you peek out to and during a class with everything, they'll tell you, do it this way, and they'll show you why you do it that way. And someone will say, well, I thought you were supposed to be up, say up close to cover. They'll show you why you're back away from cover, and everything they teach you, they'll explain you why you do it. They'll show you statistics of why you do it that way, and everything that they tell you, you can sit down and try to think of, and everything makes really good sense once you have all the facts in front of you. Went over shooting on the move again, not just forward, backward, but side to side, getting up from a position and starting to move and stuff like that. And another big thing that Tim really beat into my head on day 2, and it really changed what my training is now, or what my practice is. Say you have DEA dots, or what, the 6 dots on a target, or a silhouette target, or whatever. Don't say I'm shooting at number 6 and pull out, bang, 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 put holes in number 6. Visualize that number 6 dot is a bad guy. It's a guy with a gun or a knife or whatever, and he's closing distance on you. You've got your family or whatever. Actually make your practice drills real. Don't just go through the motions of, oh yeah, shoot number 4. 4 and 4, 2 and 2. Visualize that you're in a scenario and try to make it real. And that's really changed my practice, and it really brought some stuff home for me. Another big thing from day 2 was, once you pull your gun out and it starts making loud noise or anything like that, you're in a fight. That's what it is. Even in practice, it's a fight. And there are no rules. There's nothing saying that you can't shoot a guy in the face 15 times. If that's what it takes to put him on the ground, or, that you can't do anything. Because I carry, before class, I carried my 17, about 4 o'clock on my right hip, and a shield appendix on the left side. Me as a grown man, we're in this gunfight during training, but we're in this gunfight, and pistol runs dry, reload, bang, 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 it runs dry. And I would ask, I'm in this fight, and I ask another person, can I draw on my backup? Or can I do this? Can I do that? Once you're in this fight, you're in it until it's done. There's no rules. Either you win or you lose, and losing could be dying. And just because your gun's empty doesn't mean it's over. If you're completely out of bullets and you've shot this guy or shot at him, hopefully you were making good hits, but this is a 2-pound set of brass knuckles. Take it over his head, push it in his face. If you hit somebody in the mouthpiece with the end of this as hard as you can, there's going to be some teeth missing or some bone broke, or they're not going to be happy about it. And a couple more quick things from day 2. One thing that I'd shot from retention, you wheel that thing out and bang bang, but I'd never shot from in close, where you're beyond bad breath distance, you're tangled up with the guy. He's grabbing for you or something like that. And it was not pleasant with ear pro and eyes on. So getting that holy shit, that was loud, and there was a lot of compression and everything like that, with all this safety stuff on, and in the real world you're not going to have it on. It's not going to happen. And that was something that, if that would really happen in real life, you may have thought that your gun, because there was an instance they talked about where a guy thought his gun, something went wrong when he shot from up in tight with a guy, and ended up beating the hell out of him over the head with it, because he thought there was something wrong with his gun, just because, the concussion and all the pressure coming up off the gun because he was in that close with it. Them showing us that this is normal, your guns didn't blow up, that's just what it's like to be that close to a gun when it goes off. That was something that would, something that you wouldn't normally find yourself doing, or at a lot of ranges you can't do at all. And on day 2, if it didn't already happen on day 1, there's a lot of times that during this class that you'll have one of them aha moments or whatever, where, well, that makes a ton of sense, or holy shit, I've been doing that wrong the whole time, or something. But I guarantee if it didn't happen on day 1, on day 2, something will click. And not necessarily with how to shoot a gun or how to do the mindset stuff. You'll almost be overwhelmed with a new outlook on how to do things, and it's there's no suitable replacement for going there and taking the class. There's no videos you can watch. There's no training you can go do at the shooting range, or your buddy can tell you, well, do this and don't do that. And there's no replacement for going and taking this class. I guarantee it. I bet anybody that you've talked to that's ever been to Camden and taken fighting pistol, even if they've taken other training before, I'm willing to bet that they'll say there's no replacement for it. There's nothing else that you can do that will replicate the things you'll learn. So class is over. Everybody gets together and talks about things they've learned, things they think they're going to start doing in real life, and this and that. And driving home 9 hours. For 9 hours, I listened to the radio for maybe an hour, radio or CD or something, but the rest of it was just thinking about all the stuff that went on in class, and thinking about this and thinking about that, and most of it mindset stuff. Before, I thought that I was very, very aware of my surroundings, and knew what was going on around me, and was pretty vigilant about paying attention to stuff and stuff like that. Now since the class, I've realized that before, I was alert before. I was always paying attention to, that guy's kind of shady, or there's an exit here, exit there. I didn't really think I would get much more awareness out of the class. I thought I was already pretty aware. I was alert before. Now I'm aware. Before, something goes bump in the night or whatever, and, well, that just happened. Something went bang, and I would grab my pistol or grab my rifle and make my way through the house and see what was going on. Now, and just to use that same for instance, something goes bang. Well, as I'm getting my rifle and making my way, I'm thinking about what that noise was, how it was made, how it echoed, where it probably came from in the house, what it could have been, Was it the dog knocking over a lamp instead of it just being a bump in the night? And it's not the paranoia stage of, being all schizo when you're out in public, but, when I get to a restaurant now, instead of just seeing the exit, I see the exit, anything else. If something kicks off, there's 8 rows of tables that are full, so there's going to be a mad dash toward that door, probably, or back out the front door because they know there's an exit there. And not just knowing where things are, but having a game plan. If that dude starts getting rowdy, this is what we're doing. Or sitting at the restaurant and some dude's getting all loud at the bar, knowing, well, if he keeps escalating this, girlfriend and she's heading this way, and I'm, having a game plan versus just knowing where an exit is, which there's a big difference. The class is very serious, but it's very fun. There's a lot of joking around, but not about anything serious. When it's game time and you pull out your pistol, there's no laughing and hee-hawing. Anytime you're on the line, it's serious and it's safe. But there's also a lot of times where you're cracking up or making jokes, stuff like that. The instructors read the students. I've been in I'm a firefighter, EMT. I've taken a lot of classes, a lot of serious classes, how to keep myself alive, how to keep other people alive, how to mitigate disasters, how to keep everything calm and everything like that. But I've never taken a firearms class. So I've taken some pretty stressful classes. I've been in some pretty stressful situations, inside a house that's on fire, or trying to keep somebody alive till we get to the hospital, or stressful situations. And the way that they teach and the way that they read their students, they're the best instructors I've ever been around. And I've been around some pretty good instructors, guys that's done it for a long time and deal with serious situations. The way they teach, only showing the right way, that's huge. I've been in a lot of classes where guys teach the wrong way and say it's the wrong way, and it's a pitiful way to do it. But another huge thing is the way they read their students. I'm from a fire department and EMS background, and I wouldn't say it's exactly like, but I would say it's fairly similar to like military style of learning, where they're kind of rough on you. Don't do this shit. Don't fuck that up. They're a little rough on you, but that's the way you learn. I do. But they read their students and say there's person B that doesn't learn that way, where if they would be a little critical of them or a little harsh to them, they just kind of close up and don't learn. All the instructors, I've seen every one of them do it because I paid attention to the way they taught. This person needs this approach to instruction. This person needs that approach. And they, early on day one, they had all the students pretty much figured out. This person needs to kind of be coddled and, it's okay, calm down. We'll do it this way, that way, blah, blah, blah. Versus, this guy who's a little, whatever the situation, but he takes a more hard knocks approach to learning. Don't fuck that up. Do it this fucking way. Get your head out of your ass, which is the way I kind of learn. And so you're not going to get yelled at or get cussed at or whatever unless that's the way you learn and you're fine with it. And they're not being assholes. That's the way you learn. And there was a little bit of everything in our class. There's 35 people ish, so there were ones that they had to coddle, and they're not doing it because they think you can't learn or what. That's just the way that you learn, and they're not hateful to anybody or anything like that. It's serious. They want to teach you in a serious manner, and that's the way it conveys to some people. So our class, there was 35 people, a lot of different mentalities. There were a lot of different skill levels. There was one girl that was, I think, 17, came with her dad, and she knew how to shoot, but you could tell she was pretty green about fighting. And everybody was green about fighting, unless they've been there before. But she was pretty green with even shooting defensively. You could tell that she's shot bullseyes before, but not tried to shoot on the move or anything like that. And there was another girl that I think that was about her first time shooting a gun. There was a couple cops. One of them was a marksman. I mean, he was a hell of a shot. There was a mix of everybody else in between. Some older guys, some younger guys, some guys that were, the super tactical, outside the waistband, 5'11" pants, and every widget and stuff you could buy. There were some guys that they don't ever carry a gun, but they wanted to know how to shoot one in case they do, and everybody in between. And I think everybody got something out of it. And going to the class once doesn't mean you're an expert. Dana McClendon, Hot Crazy Matrix guy, was there, and he said, that one, he's taken the class a bunch of times. One, he learned that his skills are perishable. He hadn't taken training or shot for a while, and his groups are a little bigger than what he likes them to be and what they should be for him. And that he learned X, Y, and Z during the class, and he's taken the class a bunch. So taking the class once, it's not something that you just have it forever. You have a lot of it forever, but you need to practice it, and you should probably get back and take the class again, which is why I'm taking it again. I learned a ton, but I think there's some things that I learned so much in such a short period of time that I need to take it again. So, overall, I know this is going to be an incredibly long video, but overall, I learned a ton. I shoot 10 times better. I shoot faster. I can shoot from more positions and move in between them and things like that. My mindset is there's no way you can learn some of this mindset stuff from reading or from videos or from going to the range by yourself. And I think a lot of it you can't even learn from some other classes, other schools. It's over the top. There was a guy in our class that has been to a bunch of other, he's from Colorado, I think. He's been to a bunch of classes, a bunch of big name defensive classes, and he said that this class, he learned more in the 2 days than he had at a lot of other ones. There's really no way, I don't think you can learn this much in 2 days anywhere else, and especially for the money. It's $500. And you can find them on sale sometimes. So get off your ass. Get to Camden if you can, but if you can't, they travel. They train all over the country. I think in the Northeast you might be hard for you to find one, but there's no excuse for you to not get there, and it's worth it. There's things that you'll learn that you'll have forever, and it'll be a real shock to what you thought you knew, and it'll really set you up to be a whole lot more successful in everyday life. There's things that's changed in my life. My fitness is better. My dieting's better. Just overall in a person, I think that I'm a better person in general after taking the class. I'm much more aware of my surroundings. I mean, there's a list that long of things that I could rattle off that are improved upon or are completely new in my life that I wish I'd have taken this class 4 years ago, or however long ago I started watching James Yeager videos, or even if you've got kids or somebody, take them as soon as they can, safely hold a gun and they have a level head. Get to this training. There's no reason to not. Even if you're not a gun person, if you're a knife guy or any kind of self-defense guy, a prepper, anything, go take it. It's, even if you don't like guns, the mindset alone is worth getting there for. Well worth it. So get off your ass, go out and get this training, and remember to be prepared to thrive while others survive. Thanks.